Wanted to walk you through a little tutorial on how to patch a hole in the ceiling using a piece of plexiglass, your patch, a stick, and some expanding foam. Okay, once you've got your patch cut out, you're going to go ahead and take a piece of sandpaper and clean up any rough edges, paper that might be still sticking up. Clean that up as best as you can. Do the same thing in the ceiling, making sure there's nothing remaining there that could get in the way and make for a bad patch. Then you're going to take some PVA primer and dilute it. I did 50-50, and simply run your brush along the outside here. Do the same thing on the inside of the hole and let that dry. After that, you will take a anchor, a wall anchor, a couple different options out there obviously. This one is nice because it sits a little bit more flush with the piece of drywall, so you're not adding to your 3mm spacer. This one holds a little bit better, so that's what I ended up using for the most part. Then you're going to take your 3mm spacer, which I couldn't find any spacers actually to purchase that were 3mm. So what I ended up doing was going to Amazon and I found some plexiglass or acrylic sheets, and I cut those up using just a circular bit. This is 2.5 inches. This piece right here is 4 inches, so I wanted to have enough room so that when I have my expanding foam, they're not running into each other, but that it's also big enough so that it's giving enough surface area there to cover to hold it flat. So I cut those out, and then you've got your stick. And this is a 12-inch by 1 inch with screws on the 2, 6, and the 10s. What's going to happen is you're going to take your spacer, place it in there. This guy will run a drill and tighten that up. And then this is going to be a temporary hold into the ceiling. We'll screw those into the ceiling. And then you're going to take your expanding foam, run that around the edges, run that around the edges over there. And then you're going to let that dry. It takes about an hour. And then once that's accomplished, you'll be able to simply unscrew these, take these off along with the spacer. You can reuse that. And then you'll have some extra expanding foam that you'll just simply cut off. I'll show you that in a few minutes. It's super easy, and you'll do a little sand, throw some mud over top of it, maybe 1 or 2 coats depending on how good you are at it. But it'll be a nice flush finish. Throw some primer and paint on it and you're good to go.
Whether you're doing 1 hole or 72 like me, this is a great solution. Personally, I was installing insulation in our basement ceiling, trying to cut down on some of the noise between the levels. That meant a lot of holes and a lot of patching. So here you can see me lining up the patch in the ceiling. I was doing my best to keep a consistent margin around all the sides so that the expanding foam can fill in equally for the strongest hold. Once I've got it screwed in, I can grab my expanding foam and apply it around the edges. Now all I have to do is wait for it to dry, which takes about 60 minutes. Now that it's dry, I simply unscrew all the screws, remove the stick of wood and the 3mm spacer, then take my knife and remove the excess foam. Then I pushed in the screw holes, using the back of my multi-tool so there's no protruding paper sticking out. After that, I did a little bit of sanding, knocking off any bits of foam that might be sticking out beyond the level surface. Finally, I grabbed my mud and start applying. I wanted my initial coat to be as tight to the ceiling as possible. I later followed up with another coat, again keeping it thin, but enough to cover the area. After everything dried, I took my sander to it. A neat tip I came across was rigging up your orbital sander with your shop vac. The pieces didn't match up perfectly, but it wasn't anything a little duct tape couldn't handle. It worked beautifully and cut way down on the mess. Lastly, primer and paint.
I hope this was helpful to you. For myself, I was happy with the process and the consistency of the process. ultimately the end result, looking up at the ceiling and not really seeing anything. That's kind of the end goal, right, with drywall work. So I hope it's something that you can take away and use in your own projects. And if you do, please leave a comment below and let me know and tell me how that goes. Until then, take care.